I think one of the best things that ever happened was when the Museum of Blacksburg, you know, moved in and thought about preserving it. You take, for instance, I heard at one time before that they were thinking about, you know, just wiping it out, you know. And it didn't bother me then, you know. It really didn't, because I wasn't involved with anything about it, you know. But after I got started, you know, and then I got a different feeling about it, you know. Oddfellows Hall grew from people that just got together. They used to have like annual picnics and things like that, you know, just a bunch of kids, adults, you know, parents and everything, and have big dinners and things, you know, in the hall, dances and all like that.
Mostly we just danced, you know, the Oddfellows, you didn't go that too much. We'd go out there when they had dances and see it was the St. Luke's. It was more of a lodge. And when they'd have dances, well, I would go out there, but I wasn't a St. Luke's. A lot of them was St. Luke's and Oddfellows, and they would go, but to me, I wasn't a member. The only time I went out there, but I know all of the ones out there was Cleo, Rollins, Ed Christian, John, Mr. John, and Mr. Ed Christian, and Miss Maggie Mays, Miss Rachel Bell and Hunter Bell, and the Greens, and the Youngs. All them was blacks, just in that little segregation right out in there, and the little, you know, and that's the way it was. And Nettie Anderson, she was our school teacher. And they all just lived out there. That's most of the blacks, where the blacks lived at.
We would just all sort of meet there, and sometimes it would be so many to get in the building that we sort of spill out, really not into the street, because right next door to the hall was just a little bitty spaceway, and then Miss Young lived there with her family. So we were just sort of all out there just partying and dancing in the building and celebrating birthdays. It was pretty neat.
And we relied on it every Sunday, you know. Well, we didn't have very many socials and stuff, clubs and stuff like that to go to. So that was our only outlet, maybe, you know, every week. But they have a social maybe once a month or every other month, or have, you know, Tom Thumb wedding, little kids doing, you know, doing having a wedding, you know. So if they didn't have them in St. Paul, then they'd have them out at Oddfellows Hall. We called it the hall. We didn't call it Oddfellows. Out the hall.
We used to sit on the front at the front steps of the hall when the gentlemen would have meetings, and then after they'd leave, we'd be sitting there talking, and we hear chains rattling. I mean, this is unreal. But we heard chains rattling and heard a goat one time, and we finally got in there one time. We never saw a goat. But they had these big shields and spears and stuff, you know, up in the corner, that funny looking lights in it. Oh yeah, it was an old coffin and stuff like that. It was like a amusement park. We had to get in there and see what was going on. We knew we were wrong trying to do it, but we got in there. We didn't tear up anything, because we knew if we tore up something, we'd get something tore up.
We don't want out there.
Yeah, we'd be the only ones responsible for it.
I know they have a casket up in the upstairs, and I always wondered why it was. But all we know there was a casket up there, but we never did go up, and they wouldn't let you go up there because it was secret. You know, the Oddfellows and the St. Luke's, and you didn't go in there if the St. Luke's had a meeting unless you was a member. Also, it was with the Oddfellows. You had to be a John the Oddfellows, or you had to be a St. Luke. You didn't go. And when we go into dances, that was locked up there. You didn't go upstairs.
The mystery about that is that we couldn't go in there.
Yeah. They wouldn't allow us in there.
The mystery was that we couldn't go in there because
we wasn't allowed.
No.
They weren't. We wasn't allowed to keep
unless
in.
there was some kind of activities going on for us.
Since our house was so close, it's like, this is the hole. We had a space right here, and here's our house. Well, we going across that space regardless. Even though we knew our grandmother,
Our great-grandmother.
grandmother was gonna whip our butts, but we were going. Then we were going. They'd be scared to death though, because you hear like Richard said, you can hear chains rattling. You hear goats.
I mean, this is after they'd gone.
I mean, you hear something
the
like
meeting had been adjourned. They'd gone.
You know,
we hear this stuff. We're sitting out there
something
listening.
going like a howling or something going on upstairs. Well, with us being nosy, I think we're the only family kids that were that nosy.
There were no chickens and pigs. I never seen them, and I used to go out there. Well, I think they did that to scare the children sometime away, but it wasn't. Wasn't no chickens. I know that when we went out there, wasn't no chickens, and I know ain't nobody heard chickens up there. But I think the children, you know, more likely did that to scare them away. Yeah.
Most of the people that belonged to the Odd Fellows, you know, they kind of dropped out. Well, when I say dropped out, they died out, you know, because there was much older people in there when I went into it. It was older people, see. And then, you know, just like me, when I started working, got the shift work, you know, I had to drop out. Other people done the same thing, you know, and it just finally just dwindled away, you know.
But Newtown ain't like it was. Mm-mm. All the people's gone, different houses and stuff, they done built it all. Yeah, it's... Some of them said they were gonna do something else to it, I don't know. But I'm proud to do it, and I'm glad they are, you know, doing something about it.
I think it's
I think that's great.
It's great, yeah.
You know, renovate it. Make a museum. Yeah.
It needs something like that because being one of the few black neighborhoods in the area, this one, the Jackson Street, Dan Jackson Street and the Clay Street, it was good, you know, and to let people know that we had a real nice little community out there that could do things.
Odd Fellows Hall. A wonderful, good, mysterious place. I mean, it was just a great place to get together and socialize, I guess, with the other teens in the area, and it was just a sense of family, sense of community.